Bring in show music, please.
Hi, I'm CNBC producer Katie Kramer. Today on Squawk Pod, another day, no government open.
This is different than other government shutdowns. I don't know, they all rhyme, but they're not all the same.
Our Emily Wilkins with the latest out of Washington's blame game.
I think a lot of it is going to come down to trust. It's going to come down to discussions. It's going to come down to how comfortable senators feel.
And the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, weighs in.
You know, when I look at Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, straight out of Brooklyn, makes me glad that I left New York in 2020.
Funding, vote counting, polling, and politics.
If they want to shut the government down, then there are ramifications.
Also, the secretary is deep in the interview process for the next chair of the Federal Reserve.
Can you give us a name?
Oh, sure, Joe, come a little closer.
Plus, AOL in the headlines? And tax changes coming to charitable giving. Our Sharon Epperson with news you can use.
Of course, you want to give the most that you can to charity and not think about the tax deduction, but people want to know about that.
It's Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. Squawk Pod begins right now.
Stand Becky by in 3, 2, 1. Cue it, please.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. We're live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernen. Andrew is off today. And hey, we saw the first trading day of the fourth quarter of the year yesterday, and it's second verse, same as the first. New highs across the board for all the major averages. And then if you take a look at what's been happening with the Treasury markets, you'll see that right now yields are a little lower. The 10-year is at 4.09%. The 2-year is at 3.54%. Pressure on yields after we got that ADP report that showed the jobs picture may not be quite as rosy as had been anticipated, and we're not going to get a lot of other data.
Did you understand, first day of the quarter, first day of the shutdown, both with
and markets at new highs.
Yeah. We did have ADP on yesterday to talk about it, and Neely Richardson. Neela.
What we do is what the BLS does with their survey data, which is annually we re-benchmark it to the truth. And in the United States, that truth comes from all the workers that are covered by employment insurance regulation by the states. The BLS serves as an aggregator to these employment numbers. They are basically a near census of all the workers in the United States, with one caveat. Why don't we just look at the QCEW and throw away ADP and BLS? Well, the problem with it is that it comes out with a 6-month lag.
Said it had to do with the recent revisions in the overall employment reports, and they had to go back and recalculate it, but almost like not saying that don't pay attention to it, but there were factors that they were getting caught up on in those revisions that caused it to look more negative. Because the rest of the day we talked about it like it was disastrous for the labor markets. She seemed to be saying that there were some
She said it's a
extenuating,
slowdown, but not horrific.
But it was there were extenuating factors.
I still don't understand entirely
why
because
federal,
I thought
why
ADP
private,
federal,
right?
The federal numbers, but there's some magic know-it-all number that everybody has to set their benchmarks back.
Well, the BLS data includes both, so we know that, and they try and do private. So a portion of those. The revisions were huge again in the BLS, and then the person got fired, obviously, but that went in. They're getting caught up on taking into account those revisions with their data. So I'm not sure it was a horrible number. Nothing acted like it was a horrible number.
No, the yield's lower though, and
you're
looking
a little bit lower, but new highs.
Yeah.
Government shutdown enters day 2. No votes expected today. Also, no jobs data. Emily Wilkins joins us now with more. We're going to hear about furloughs or firings en masse at this point. I know we're getting a lot of infrastructure clawbacks in blue states. I don't know. The Democrats, it's almost like the Trump administration wants to make Democrats pay for this.
I mean, they're definitely ratcheting up the pressure on Democratic senators, Joe. And, now that the shutdown, we do know now it is going to delay those Friday's job numbers after senators failed yesterday to get enough votes at their latest attempt to fund the government. As you mentioned, no votes today with the holiday. Next votes right now are scheduled to be Friday afternoon. So jobs numbers could be delayed until then, could be delayed until we see funding. And if there is an extended lack of data, that's going to add uncertainty to the Federal Reserve's monetary policy outlook. That's according to a new analysis from S&P Global. And as you mentioned, when it gets to job losses, remember, we've got roughly 750,000 federal employees that are being furloughed. That's furloughed, not laid off. But Vice President J.D. Vance said that layoffs are expected to begin in the next few days.
We are going to have to lay some people off if the shutdown continues. We don't like that. We don't necessarily want to do it, but we're going to do what we have to keep the American people's essential services continuing to run.
In addition to any layoffs, about 150,000 federal employees who took buyouts earlier in the year, they're now officially off the payroll as of yesterday. It was the end of the fiscal year. It was the end of their roles. So you have to factor that in as well to any layoffs that we do hear about. And of course, everyone's looking for the potential off-ramp here. One of them is that there is a bipartisan group of lawmakers. They are discussing a potential path forward on extending some of those Affordable Care Act tax credits. But so far, it's not clear that a deal is going to come together. And Joe, as you mentioned, the pressure is only ramping up. You saw $18 billion of funding canceled for New York City infrastructure projects. You saw $8 billion of funding canceled for green energy projects, including hydrogen. All of it from states represented by Democratic senators. So the Trump administration really putting pressure on them to vote with Republicans for that stopgap measure they've been putting forward. Guys?
And there are discussions between senators on both sides of the aisle. And I asked, well, who's close? And he said, well, there are discussions with certain senators, but he wouldn't tell me who the next
moderate Democrats
3, 4,
or
5
moderate Republicans. But it sounded like what they were discussing, Emily, was just the idea that they would find a way to continue to fund the government for the next 7 weeks while they discussed the health care issues.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Which I thought that deal was already on the table.
I wasn't even talking about whether they'd make some type of compromise. I'm talking about who's going to just finally say, I'm joining Fetterman and I'm joining.
Well, my guess is that it will come from that because it's part of the deal that's already on the table.
There's too much. Yeah, but there's too much pushback. And they said, no way we're doing that with the why should we spend $1 trillion on a continuing resolution to fund subsidies for a program that just costs too much? It costs too much, and it's raising the price. It's raising premiums for everyone. I mean, that's how healthcare works. If you subsidize it, all private employers are going to try and get people to move over to the subsidized Obama. That's why we're in this mess right now. And I think and
that's really the interesting thing right now is the cost, right? Because if you look at everything Democrats are asking for, yes, it does total $1.5 trillion. But if you just look at extending these Affordable Care Act tax credits, if you were to do so just permanently, Congressional Budget Office estimates that that's about $350 billion over the next decade. And that's why you're seeing Republicans and Democrats say, look, we can do things like we can cap the amount of income, or we can have people pay a minimum payment, or we can limit those who are actually able to go ahead and take this tax credit. But of course, as you guys were just mentioning, all that takes time. They can't get to an agreement on that in a few days. That's a negotiation that could take weeks, it could take months. And so I think that is kind of one of the things they're discussing. Is there a way to move forward where you keep the government funded, but at the same time know that you are making progress and that you will reach some sort of compromise, say maybe by November 21st, which of course is when the stopgap is going to go to, or even before the end of the year when these tax credits formally expire?
That's what it's going to be. We promise. It's not going to be done before. It's not going to be done before you get 60 votes to reopen the government. There's going to have to be some Democrats that say, okay, we trust you, or there's something that's solid enough where they think they're going to get. You think they'll get beyond just a promise to talk about it? You think they'll get a promise that we will do it if you vote with us on this CR?
I think a lot of it, Joe, is going to come down to trust. It's going to come down to discussions. It's going to come down to how comfortable senators feel. I mean, remember, Republicans at this point, they've got 3 Democrats who are voting with them. They only need 5 more to be able to reopen the government. And even yesterday, when these votes were happening on the floor, you saw that big bipartisan group of lawmakers that were all, I think, trying to talk about it, trying to get to a solution, obviously keeping a number of cards close to the chest as they negotiate. But it does seem like there is at least some movement there, because if these tax credits expire, that is going to impact people in Republican states as well as Democratic states when it comes to the cost of their health insurance.
Well, can Schumer say, hey, I didn't acquiesce, I did my best for you, and will that...
If you get nothing?
If you appease the left, if the other people end up folding, and he says, hey, I did my best, these other guys, these other guys...
Then you can't control your caucus.
Which is more reputational damage for Schumer, that he loses the control of an additional 5, or that he says, hey, I held firm this time and you can't blame me for this. These other guys are rogues, or other guys and gals.
No-win situation either way.
I think it might be a no-win situation.
That's a good question, and I think it's also going to depend on what this agreement is, right? I mean, if Schumer can credibly go behind a podium, face a bunch of news cameras and say, look, this is what we got in exchange for reopening the government, and I feel confident this is going to, address health insurance or whatever it winds up being, that you could always spin something as a win. And I think then it's a question about what does that actually look like? And then, of course, what happens next? You actually wind up seeing an agreement 7 weeks down the road or 2-3 months down the road. And so I think it's a lot of questions at this point as far as what, if anything, is going to come from these negotiations. It could be something where they're not able to get to an agreement. And at that point, again, the pressure just keeps ratcheting up. We're missing jobs day. There's other economic data on the line. Soon we're going to have paychecks being missed for federal employees, for those in the military. I mean, every week that this shutdown goes on, the amount of impact is just going to go greater and greater.
And then you wonder if the president overplays his hand and these permanent layoffs that we might get, his base would probably love more Doge-like cuts, because they
tank the economy and the jobs market.
Might tank the economy, and just people. I'm already seeing it. I think Jimmy Kimmel went on Stephen Colbert's show. God, I can't believe I missed it. Thank God I recorded it. No, I didn't. And then talked about, this is the first time in history a administration has been cheering the loss of jobs in terms of if they do lay off a bunch of federal employees, but. That could affect the midterms, too, Emily. If you go too far with this, it is a chance to do a lot of these things that the administration couldn't do under just Doge. But could they take that too far?
I mean, Joe, the administration, it should be noted, I mean, they have the power to do these layoffs. It's not like the shutdown grants them any special ability to do this. I mean, this is something where the administration has decided to use this moment to kind of take a look at maybe who is considered essential versus non-essential. A lot of people would quibble with using that term there, that, some folks who are kept on or furloughed are still doing very important work, as we see with the jobs data and other data from BLS. I think there's a huge question about how this plays out in the midterms. I mean, both sides have really gone into this making a bet that they're going to be the ones coming out looking better and the other side's going to be coming out looking worse. And we're just going to have to see how this thing ultimately plays out and what those poll numbers look like.
Because it started with, we really want to be able to, it's going to be great. We're going to lay off permanently lay off all these government employees. But then you see J.D. Vance and others walking up. And no one wants to do this, but we've got other essential services while the government's closed. We got to keep these open. So this is just a necessary thing that, sort of walking back the zeal that it seems like they have for being able to do this. Emily, thanks.
And I think
this is different. This is different than other government shutdowns. There's more. I don't know. They all rhyme, but they're not all the same, are they? Except for the stock market never goes down.
Right. NASA employees on the Artemis missions with SpaceX and Blue Origin will keep working through the shutdown. Yeah, hard not to when you're there and you have people in space. CNBC has learned around 3,000 of NASA's 15,000 employees will work unpaid during the shutdown furlough, but they will receive back pay when the government reopens. NASA will continue to support planned operations of the International Space Station. Good idea. as well as any satellite mission that is in the operations phase at this point. But again, this is part of the problem with shutdowns, planned chaos for forcing people to work because you got to be there, you got to show up for these jobs, but you're not going to get paid. Don't worry, we'll take care of you later, they say.
Yeah.
Meantime, good luck paying your mortgage.
Right. Neither side likes shutdowns, but they both use them.
I've never been a fan.
No.
I mean, it's a ridiculous idea. You've already agreed to spend this money. You've already basically, it's like not paying your credit
Maybe
card
we
bills.
do the Ron Johnson thing.
Get rid of the idea of government shutdowns?
Of shutdowns. There's a way to do it. It's not that hard. And he says we're close. We almost have enough people to do it bipartisan.
Neither side wants to give up the leverage because they see it as their one leverage point when they're in the minority.
Neither side, and both are like, oh, well, we have a shutdown coming up. Whomever is out of power.
Right. Whoever the minority party is,
right,
to keep it. And they know that even if they're in the majority now, they will eventually be in the minority.
Yeah.
And Yahoo could be close to selling AOL. And no, this is not a flashback to the dot-com era 25 years ago. Reuters is reporting that Yahoo, which is owned by private equity giant Apollo Global Management, is in advanced talks to sell AOL to Italian app developer Bending Spoons for $1.4 billion. Both Bending Spoons and Apollo have declined to comment on this. Apollo acquired a 90% stake in Yahoo from Verizon in 2021 for $5 billion. You've got mail.
Time Warner, Steve Case got the greatest sleight of hand in history, right?
Trading up.
Got out at that point, almost killed Time Warner. Coming up, we're expecting, maybe did.
Cheese will be next.
Coming up next on Squawk Pod, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on the political rhetoric surrounding the government shutdown, his candidate search for a new Fed chair, and
can we talk? I don't think we've ever talked soybeans.
President Trump could confront China over its refusal to purchase a key U.S. crop.
It's unfortunate that Chinese leadership has decided to use the American farmers, soybean farmers in particular, as a hostage or pawn in the trade negotiations.
And a trivia question for you. It is time for October baseball. Babe Ruth was the first player to hit 60 home runs in a season. What happened to his record on October 1st in 1961, 64 years ago yesterday? Yes, there's a point. Stay tuned after this break. Welcome back to Squawk Pod from CNBC. Today with Joe Kernen and Becky Quick, and the answer to our trivia question. October 1st, 1961, Roger Maris of the New York Yankees surpassed Babe Ruth's home run record. Some of us remember those days.
I guess that's a hard.
You said it yourself.
But that's a hard question now. Oh, because I was there.
It's a hard question.
I know.
If you're not old.
I was there.
You said it, not me.
I know. We're in day 2 of the government shutdown. Join us now with where the administration stands on the latest. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Scott, it helps to, Mr. Secretary, it helps to have seen the moon landing, doesn't it? I mean, isn't there something beneficial about having some experience in life, or is it me?
Joe, I find good to be with you and Becky. I find wisdom's good. I remember when my dad got me up early in the morning to watch the moon landing. So I think I was 7 years old.
I know. Then unlike some other people, we know it actually happened and that the flag wasn't waving.
I wasn't there. I didn't see it, but I believe it.
Okay. This Secretary, day 2. I guess I'll start with what we're hearing from OMB or at least rumors of possible real action taken to do some things permanently during this shutdown within the next 48 hours or so. Can you shed any light on whether that's really going to happen, or was it a bargaining chip for Republicans to get Democrats to agree to keep the government open?
Well, Joe, let's just step back for a minute and look how we got here. Chuck Schumer did the right thing in the spring and led the Senate to a clean CR. What we've got here is the House they passed a clean CR. The Republicans have the votes in the Senate, and he will not allow his members to come across. And what's changed since then is it's his poll numbers. So the president, Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, they're not negotiating with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They're negotiating with Representative Ocasio-Cortez because she's nipping at his heels. And, so the American people are being held hostage by Chuck Schumer's poll numbers. And we're starting to see some of the moderate, the very few moderate members left in the Democratic Party in the Senate drift toward wanting a solution. Chuck Schumer's blocking it. When I look at Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, straight out of Brooklyn, makes me glad that I left New York in 2020. And your question about the shutdown, this is a choice that Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have made. And if they want to shut the government down, then there are ramifications.
I'm just wondering, do you think that there is it more than just bargaining then? Would the president, would Russ Vought, would they like to do some, they've already pulled back on some, on some funding in some blue states for, climate initiatives. So they're going ahead with some of these things. Do you think they'd like to finally shrink the size of the federal government and use this as the opportunity? Or are they hoping that we get things settled within the next couple of days, then that they don't have to do that?
Well, what they want is what's good for the American people, and what's good for the country is a clean CR. The Democrats want to negotiate, in the, like terrorists. They want to say this is what we have to have, and if we don't get it, we're going to close down the government. So, what President Trump, Vice President Vance, and the Republican leadership want is for the Democratic side to show a little leadership. And I don't think it's unreasonable for the president to use all the levers. Because, Joe, what they are asking for, they're asking for $1.5 trillion increase in spending. And let's just go back. That would be almost as big as the ill-fated IRA, which caused the worst inflation in half a century. So they want to put this inflationary impulse into President Trump's already strong economy. The economy is growing at 3.8%. We don't need 1.5 trillion pumped in. The Democrats seem to love inflation.
But getting back to Joe's kind of premise on this, are these furloughs or job layoffs in the federal government, are those going to come anyway? Because that's what the Democrats have suggested, that the Trump administration is going to push forward with layoffs and with furloughs anyway, whether they do this or not. Is that true?
Again, it's a talking point. Senator Schumer, Representative Jeffries, they're weak, they're discombobulated, they don't represent the American people, and they're making up excuses. So we'll see. I think that this is an opportunity, and they're using this opportunity. President Trump, in the first 9 months now, has been unstoppable. They've tried to stop him in the courts. They've tried to stop him in the press. And now they're trying to stop him with this shutdown.
Yep. Mr. Secretary, there's a piece yesterday, an op-ed piece in the Journal, I think from the editors themselves, that said they were urging Republicans not to get soft on some of the Medicaid cuts that we saw in the OBB, and that they're starting to see some buyer's remorse from moderate Republicans in their willingness maybe to talk about extending these COVID-era Obamacare subsidies. I mean, the way Obamacare is right now, and I don't know, maybe you're good with, you were in investment banking, you can design something perhaps better, because that's why we're in this mess. That's why we need these subsidies right now, because it doesn't work the way it was intended. And all the unintended consequences of Obamacare are coming home to roost at this point. That's why we need $1.5 trillion to try to keep it afloat. Can you fix it? What would you do?
Well, Joe, what we're seeing is President Trump's leadership. We're seeing this, what's going to be a dramatic cut in prescription drug prices, which is one of the bigger parts of the healthcare budget. So President Trump is laser focused on that, negotiating with Big Pharma. And just to be clear, the spending cuts that occurred in the one big beautiful bill were the largest in history, and we're not going to go back on them. That I came out from behind my desk and wanted to join the government to right the ship and get our fiscal house in order. We were left with a mess. It was the largest deficit when we weren't in a recession, weren't at war, and we are fixing the deficit. And there could be a discussion, but this isn't the way to have a discussion. Shutting down the government and lowering the GDP. We have a 3.8% GDP, and the Democrats shut down the government. That we could see a hit to the GDP, a hit to growth, and a hit to working Americans.
But do you see that as what finally gets this done at some type of concession for Republicans to extend those COVID era super Obamacare subsidies? Is that what Republicans should be agreeing to have Democrats agree for the CR, to vote on the CR? Is that the way it should be done?
Well, I can guarantee you there's not going to be an agreement to get the CR. There may be an agreement to talk, to have talks. This is going to be a clean CR. Okay. When Biden was president, the Republicans passed 13 CRs. We didn't close down the government. And again, as I said, what's changed between now and the spring? It's Senator Schumer's poll numbers, which are plummeting.
We'll move on to trade quickly. I don't know, these never last that long. I don't think the market never looks much at the shutdown. So I figure, I don't know, 3-4 days, I think, when it's over. But can we talk, I don't think we've ever talked soybeans in terms of China, but this is a real issue right now. Our farmers are getting caught up in the trade dispute. Is there anything the president can do, or what do you expect to happen between the president and President Xi?
Well, there's plenty the president can do, and it's unfortunate that Chinese leadership has decided to use the American farmers, soybean farmers in particular, as a hostage or pawn in the trade negotiations. And American farmers overwhelmingly voted for President Trump, more than 90%. He loves the farmers, he loves them. We have a great Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. 3 of us were in the Oval yesterday, and you should expect some news on Tuesday on substantial support for our farmers, especially the soybean farmers. They've had President Trump's back, and we've got their back.
You own I believe you own a farm or property in North Dakota where you farm soybeans as well. What's been the impact on your property, Scott?
Becky, there are 2 things here. One is the diminution of the Chinese buying. We've taken care of some of that with the trade deals. In almost every trade deal, there is a buying of American agricultural products. So we're going to see other countries substitute for China. And then on the other side, I can tell you from personal experience, this is a record harvest. So, the American farmers, the American farm tech, there is an abundance here. The harvest is so big that we may run out of storage. So that's also affecting prices. And on Tuesday, you're going to see substantial support for the farmers. And we're also going to be working with the Farm Credit Bureau to make sure that the farmers have what they need for next planting season.
I want to get to Argentina at some point, Mr. Secretary, but I don't want to ignore the Fed. Can you just tell us who's your favorite pick at this point for the next chairman, and that we could get that out of the way and go right to Argentina? Can you give us a name?
Oh, sure, Joe. Come a little closer. I'll tell you.
You'll whisper it to me.
Joe, yesterday we went over the halfway point. I've been tasked with interviewing 11 outstanding candidates. Some are at the Fed now, some have been at the Fed, some are from the private sector, and we're going to continue the interviews this week. They took a pause because the Fed has what's called a quiet period when around the meeting, so we honored the quiet period, didn't interview anyone who was currently on the Fed board or a regional president before that. And I expect to have the first round of interviews completed by next week. Then we'll go to the second round, and then I expect to present President Trump with 3 to 5 very strong candidates.
I've heard it, and as far as Argentina, I've had it said to me that it's in our best interest for Argentina to succeed because of the finally, in South America, there's a model for maybe a free market economy or a capitalist economy. But that doesn't help people that say America first should not include, big help for another country. Can you justify us helping Milei? And it looks like we have interest down there, or some of our wealthy Americans have interests down there, and the president's helping them. Does it make sense? Should we be doing this?
Well, first of all, Joe, this trope that we're helping out wealthy Americans with interests down there, couldn't be more false. What we're doing is maintaining a U.S. strategic interest in the Western Hemisphere. America first doesn't mean America alone. And look, when you have a failed state in South America like Venezuela, now we are having to track down and blow up these cartel ships. So you don't want to create another failed state. It's my belief that the Obama administration missed a generational opportunity during his 8 years. Many of the governments down there moved from far left to center right. We did not support them. And then they took a hard lurch to the left. And now Argentina is a beacon down there. And there's a chance now for many other countries to come along. Bolivia, Ecuador, I think Colombia after the elections. So what you don't want are these failed economic models. And Argentina has 100 years of decline, and President Milei is working against history. And he's done a fantastic job. And I am sure that when we see the elections this month, that he's going to do well, his party will do well. The Argentinian people, especially the young people, what's encouraging in Argentina, it's the young people who've made the decision not to impoverish their nation. And as far as what the U.S. is doing, just to be clear, we are giving them a swap line. We are not putting money into Argentina.
Okay, well, we'll just end quickly on China, because we did have the Ambassador Perdue on yesterday, and I don't know, he was sort of calming. I think he met President Xi and had some corporate leaders over there that hadn't been over in a while, and he wasn't going to comment on trade. He said he's more commenting on the relationship between the two countries.
We're willing to have China participate, but with that participation comes responsibility. They could help us end that war in Ukraine right now. President Trump has tried to get them to stop buying Russian oil. We know that 90% of the Iranian oil goes to China. If China were to stop buying oil from Iran, it would make a huge difference in the Middle East. So if China wants to really be a partner in turning the future of the world order, we'd like to see them be a little more responsible as well.
Any softening at all? Any positive things happening right now that we could expect to see in the next couple of weeks?
Well, Joe, the most important thing we're going to see is a meeting, a pull-aside meeting with President Trump and Party Chair Xi in Korea towards the end of the month. As I lead the trade negotiations for the U.S. with my counterpart on the Chinese side, the Vice Premier, what gives us great comfort is the respect that the two leaders have for each other. So it'll be very helpful for them to be able to speak in person and set the framework for trade going forward. Our current trade agreement, we've been doing 90-day rolls with China, expires on November 10th. So I think with President Trump's leadership and his relationship, the respect that Party Chair Xi has for him, that this round, which would be our 5th round of talks, should show a pretty big breakthrough. And we can start talking about things, whether it's ag purchases. And Joe, to go back on the ag purchases, In President Trump's phase one trade deal that was signed in January 2020, there were over $50 billion of ag purchases. The Chinese followed through during President Trump's term in 2020, and then under President Biden, their feet were not held to the fire for these ag purchases. And at the meeting in Geneva, when I asked them, why didn't you continue buying soybeans and the other products, they had one word. Guess what it was? Biden.
Biden. Oh, that sounds like malarkey. Come on, man. All right, Treasury Secretary Bessent, thanks. I appreciate it. We got some extra time this morning. I know you've got things to do, places to go, people to see, but thanks for all your time. Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Okay.
We'll be right back. You're listening to Squawk Pod.
Stand by, Joe. His mic, cue.
President Trump, just posting on Truth Social, I have a meeting today with Russ Vought, he of Project 2025 fame, to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, most of which are a political scam, he recommends to be cut, and whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. They are not stupid people, so maybe this is their way of wanting to quietly and quickly make America great again. President DJT.
Many nonprofits are facing financial challenges because of federal funding cuts and termination of contracts. Now the government shutdown is adding to disruptions just as the most popular season for charitable giving gets underway. Sharon Epperson joins us right now with more on your money and upcoming tax changes for donations. Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning, Becky. You know, whether it's providing disaster relief, child care, support for seniors, or other needs in local communities, many nonprofits are concerned about the impact of the government shutdown on their services, and they're looking to private donors for help. Here's what you should know about your charitable contributions this giving season. Tax experts say taking a multi-year approach is prudent because of some major tax law changes that will go into effect next year. For some high earners, starting in 2026, there will be a floor on itemized charitable deductions, only allowing a tax break once donations exceed 0.5% of your adjusted gross income. Also under H.R. 1, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, deductions for filers in the top 37% income tax bracket will be capped at 35%. So what does this mean? Well, for example, if your adjusted gross income is $1 million, which is in the 37% tax bracket, and you donate $100,000 to charity in 2025, that charitable deduction could save you $37,000. In 2026, a $100,000 gift may only be worth $33,250 under the new legislation. Also starting in 2026, single filers who don't itemize and take the standard deduction will still get an above-the-line deduction on cash gifts of up to $1,000. The limit will be $2,000 for married couples filing jointly. For the 2025 tax year, if you don't itemize on your federal return, you can't take a charitable deduction. So this new provision could encourage more giving, some experts say. For more money-saving strategies, subscribe to my free Money 101 newsletter series. Use the QR code on the screen or sign up at cnbc.com/money101. Becky.
I had no idea they changed and made these issues even more complicated.
Even more complex.
This time around. The point was they were trying to incentivize giving, incentivize you to give more, but not more, like more than 0.5% if you're above an income, but not. If you give much more, you're going to be penalized?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's going to happen. And so that's why people are encouraging you to look this year at what strategy you can do to make sure that you're maximizing the potential deduction. Of course, you want to give the most that you can to charity and not think about the tax deduction, but people want to know about that. And so bunching your donations or making sure that you're able to give appreciated stock, things that you can do that will allow you to make a contribution now, take the maximum deduction, and then also spread that out over several years, like through a donor advised fund.
Yeah,
that's what a lot of people are
fund. If you don't already have one, what's the strategy you should be taking around?
Well, if you don't already have have one, I mean, it's important to look at where you can set one up. There are some companies that will allow you to do one without a minimum contribution. Others, it might be $10,000 or $25,000 that you need to start with for donor advised fund. But the key there is you want to try to figure out if you can give more than the standard deduction so that you can actually take that charitable contribution and itemize.
And charitable charities right now think that they are likely to get more from this, or they're worried just with the government shutdown that they're not going to have services.
They're just worried.
Right now.
Yeah, they're worried. They want to try to get the money right now. But if you can, depending on your tax situation, if it's not time sensitive, you can wait till January. For those people who don't itemize, they might want to wait.
Okay, Sharon, thank you.
Sure.
That's Squawk Pod for today. Thanks for listening. Squawk Box is hosted by Joe Kernen, Becky Quick, and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Tune in weekday mornings on CNBC at 6 Eastern, or get the best of our TV show right into your ears when you follow Squawk Pod wherever you like to get your podcasts. Have a great day. We'll meet you right back here tomorrow.
We are clear. Thanks, guys.